Okay, terrific. Now we have time for our grower panel. Thanks so much, Eric. The videos were both fantastic, and the information that you shared. I love your don't give up, because I know that's true of you. Look at how long you've been doing this. And it's also true of the two growers on the panel here. They're both people that I've heard talk about this, as well as other practices, but this practice alone. And it's something that they've worked on. They don't expect it to always work the first time, and they keep refining it and working at it until it does happen. So I would like to introduce, Laura will be guiding the panel in the Q&A. And on the panel are Roy Fuentes and Javier Zamora. Roy is the president of Fuentes Berries Farms. His agricultural heritage traces back to his grandfather, who came to work in the fields under the Bracero program. Fuentes Berry Farms leases 135 acres, specializes in strawberries and raspberries, and employs over 100 workers. So thank you so much, Roy. Please correct anything I misstated there. Mm-hmm. And Javier Zamora is the owner of the JSM Organic brand and Triple M Ranch in Royal Oaks. He farms over 100 acres on California's Central Coast. He studied at Cabrillo College in Alba and is now a mentor to other farmers, as well as a leading voice in organic production. He participates on many boards, including Eco Farm and CCOF. He grows strawberries, caneberries, vegetables, and beautiful flowers. Thank you, Javier, for being here. With that, I'll turn it over to you. To you, Laura.
Thank you, Pam. Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Murphy with the RCD of Monterey County, and it's my pleasure to have the opportunity to chat with our farmers here about their experience with this practice. We have about 15 minutes to go through these questions, and then for audience questions, I think we'll be having a discussion at the end. So these are just some directed questions for both of you, Javier and Roy. In general, from your experience, what benefits have you gained from cover cropping in strawberry furrows? And thinking about those benefits, were they very valuable to you and your business, the environment, and the broader community?
Roy, how are you? Take it away, Roy.
Well, it's been really good for me in my operation that I have participated with Eric in regards to some of this, things that we've been, working out through the years. And for me, I'm a go-getter on cover crops, just, overall. And when he came in and told me about trying to do some of the furrows because of, the ag order coming in and, having to do something with erosion, I said, yeah, let's try it. And since we started it, we started to see some really, really good values. And of course, one of them is what the ag order, wanted to do, which was somehow, start working on the water runoff, and eventually, control some of the erosion that we get with that. And definitely working on different grounds, you have different results. If you're dealing like what the type of soil we're dealing at the USDA DG ground, we tend to have more water runoff a lot quicker versus some of the fields that are heavy soil, heavy clay, that tend to retain, or absorb quicker the water. But it's been great, and we've been retaining quite a bit of this rainwater, coming. I know lately it hasn't been the case because has not been raining, but the years that were, we noticed that the majority of the water will stay in the furrow, and then eventually, kind of sink into the soil. And we noticed that the erosion was very slow coming out and very clear water coming out, and it was, less than versus if you didn't have the cover crop and the furrow. So that's a great value, coming, by doing this. Also, the weeding has been the biggest issue with us, organic, and it's always on a yearly thing that we have to, spend so much money on it. So by doing the cover crop, you also gain value of weed control, and that's a big plus for me. That's why I, definitely, continue with the program.
Excellent. That's really interesting, Roy, because I think, as I understand it, you are farming on relatively flat ground, and yet you've seen a very big benefit with erosion control.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. That's how we've seen it, through the years.
Great, thank you. Javier, can you talk about the benefits you've experienced?
Absolutely, and please get the hook if I'm going more than 2 minutes, because I know there's a couple other questions and we want to get to those. To me, the number one thing is just because I don't farm on flat land for strawberries. I farm on hills. So erosion control was the number one benefit that I got out of this. It's really difficult when you are farming on rolling hills like I do, especially for strawberries. So the cover crop that I used, the Ida Gold mustard, it worked really, really well. It helped me control the speed of water coming down the hill, and also helped me kind of like be a little bit of an educator when it comes to bringing out to the farmers market and offering it to people so they could, saute with it as well, and it's edible. So that worked out really well. I would like to say, though, that I use the Ida Gold like in the middle of the furrow, but at the end of the furrow, at the beginning and the end, I use ryegrass, because we know that, if you do 3-4 feet of ryegrass at the end of the furrow where the water comes in and goes out, it also helps you retain some of the sand that you might be losing. So erosion control was the number one, and also bringing something new during winter time for the customers to eat and saute with their garlic in wintertime.
That's excellent, Javier. I think that's an unexpected benefit that this provided, a diversification of your marketable crops. So both of you started to touch on some difficulties, some challenges perhaps, but if you could, with the next question, elaborate on the issues that you have faced in terms of implementing and managing this practice. What have been your greatest challenges? What are some innovative ways that you've addressed them? And what are your next steps for addressing challenges as you continue?
So Roy, I'll go first this time. How about
okay,
that?
Go.
So the first challenge that I had, it was how to irrigate it. I believe that, if you want to do it really early on, you have to have the land available so you can plant early, and then you have to lay another drip tape. So that's an extra cost. And then when do you get rid of it, right? That's a little bit of a challenge, because if it doesn't rain, and if it rains too much and that kind of thing. The other challenge that I found was that Ida Gold mustard grows really fast. It's beautiful, but if you don't get to it and if you don't trim it, maybe in, let's see, I think it was December, it would actually start shading your strawberry plants. And in a certain area, I couldn't get to it because it was the area of the field that had the highest slope, and I didn't really want to get into it because I would probably create a lot of erosion if we started walking on it and stuff. So that area, I wasn't able to trim it and cut it down early enough. So that specific area, my strawberries got really leggy because they've been shaded by the mustard. So the challenge was when to trim it, not at the end, but during the growing, during the winter time when it's growing. So if we get a lot of sunny days, it grows really, really fast. So with to avoid that, I think Laura and I were thinking about maybe planting something else that does not grow higher than a foot or 18 inches, something like that. So again, it's a little more challenging for me because of the rolling hills. You know, if I had a flat piece of ground like you guys do in Salinas, I mean, chances are I'll probably make it not as beautiful as you guys had it, but a little more easier for us, and also to use the implements to cut it, to trim it down. Adelante, Roy. Go ahead, Roy.
I agree with what you said. What we faced, through the years was we didn't have problems on growing it. It was how we were going to, knock it down at what time and what tools to use. So, we started with using la rosadera, the one to bring it down. And then, we found out exactly what you commented, that if we let it grow too big, it was going to be a disaster on chopping it in. But then, through the years, we decided to come in and, chop it at a certain height where we could have basically a better time when the rains went out, and then we can start, cultivating inside, and, a much easier way to get rid of it. But it was a challenge, that we had to do, and I think Eric and we've been, trying to move a little more mechanically when the time comes, and then also playing with the different mustard that is not gonna grow, like Ida Gold does, and that's been our case on how we can chop it, work it, and incorporate it to the soil. So little by little, we're penciling it in, and that way it comes a much easier practice to do. Yeah, I agree with you. You have different challenges with the rolling hills. Over here myself, I get a little easier time to do that, but it's working out so far.
Thanks, Roy.
So I'm gonna riff a little bit and add an extra question here, because we didn't really discuss the scale at which both of you are implementing this practice. I think we all understand Roy has the great advantage of working together with Eric, and maybe a little bit of extra experimentation happening there. But I think you're both using this practice in organic strawberries. That's one thing to note that's important. And what scale, how many acres are you actually implementing this practice on every year? And are you mostly managing it with individual labor, hand tools, or are you using tractors and special implements?
So that year that I did the Ida Gold, we did 16 acres. We planted 16 acres. We did it all by hand. And like Roy was saying, we did use the rosadera, during the winter season, to chop certain areas down, the area that was growing a lot. At the end of the season, we were able to use the trimmer, the wire eater, or the weed eater, but we had to be really careful, because again, you're not going to be able to use a tractor at that time of the year, at least in my area. Again, it's rolling hills, it's difficult. Some areas are a little muddy and like heavy soils, so you can't really get in. and some other areas might be sandy, but it's way up on the hill, so you can't drive the tractor. So what we did, we used a wire trimmer, but we cut it small, not the normal width that you would use it with. That way we avoid hitting the plastic, because I mean, if you're just beginning, you haven't even harvested a single strawberry, and if you damage the plastic, the mulch, you're toasted, my friend. So that will create so many problems. So this is what I like when I see the tools that Roy and Eric are creating. It makes me a lot happier because I'll be able to use some of those tools versus just trying to figure it out myself. So thank you for doing that.
Roy, would you have anything to add?
Just to, every year I'm increasing my plantings. We know we do all the acreage there at the USDA. My other ranch, I started it with 6 acres and just kind of appointing where most of the water runoff, I felt it was gonna, definitely ease, the water coming out. So every year I'm adding a few acres more and a few acres more, and then once we get the tool that it's going to help us to speed up the process of doing the cuttings on the master, then we can easily come in and increment our acres. So this year I'm thinking about doing about 12 acres total, and with the USDA, so roughly doing about 16 to 18 acres a year, and moving up.
That sounds great. All right, we have just a couple minutes left, and to wrap up this section, I'd like to ask you, in the end, what is your reasoning? What is your motivation to do this practice, to continue with this practice despite obvious challenges? And would you recommend it to other farmers? Any critical advice that you would give?
Absolutely. Why do I do it? Is just because we have to make sure that we don't lose any soil, that we keep the soil in place, because otherwise, well, your land will be having some issues, because you don't just lose the soil, you lose a lot of nutrients as well, the root system, and you can figure that one out. So we don't want the soil to go with the neighbors. We do it because we need to make sure that we catch as much water as possible. And when you use cover crop, the water infiltrates and eventually will get to the aquifers faster if we do it that way. And I guess it's just, as an organic grower, the practices, the more practices you do that will help the environment, the better off you're going to be during the growing season, and the better soil and better nutrients and water will be available for future generations that will likely be using the land that we're farming right now. Do I recommend it? Yes, I think anyone that is an organic grower should and must do some sort of cover crop. It's excellent if you can do it during summertime, if you have the land to do it, but it's definitely needed during the winter time, because it can get really rainy sometimes. Not every year, but when it rains, it pours, and then we lose a lot of soil. ¿Qué le parece, señor Roy?
Oh, you nail it in the head. Yeah, so that's exactly why I'm doing it and learning from it. And I feel strongly that, if you're, an organic farmer, you should definitely try, all these applications that we are trying, and it'll be a great benefit, for them. So I definitely recommend them. I'm an old-fashioned type of organic. going back to the late Amigo Cantizano and some other people that stressed to me that in organic, you got to take care of your land, you got to take care of your surroundings and all of this. So I think what we are doing up to this point is basically achieve that particular goal, but it's not done yet. We still need to keep learning, and then having people like Eric definitely giving ideas and all of this. It's just been really good, and it's something for everyone to try and learn from it.
Thank you both very much. It's always nice to wrap up on a positive and inspired, motivating note. Please, both of you, stick around so that at the end we can have some audience questions with you. And Pam, would you like to move on with the agenda?
Yes, thank you so much. That was really valuable information. It's just so great to hear firsthand from somebody who has tried the practice and made it work and kept working with it. So really appreciate your sharing your knowledge and experience with us.